Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Final Tackle podcast. And we are joined by Ruin Hammer. They are a New Zealand Warriors Australian based podcast or show, whatever you guys want to call it. They do live shows every Wednesday, just before kickoff on Thursdays, like as in the day before. Welcome and thank you for joining us.
Thanks.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Yeah, thanks for having us, mate.
No, it's so easy. So, I mean, first of all, let's talk about you guys and Ruin Hammer first before we get stuck into the Warriors 2021 season coming up. How did you guys get started?
We are part of a group called Warrior Nation, which is which was formed by a guy called Richard Morgan.
Mm-hmm.
And we've been a part of that for a couple of years now. It's the Australian-based Warriors supporters group. And Rob and I basically met through that page, not in person though.
Oh, okay.
It was, we kind of met as people within the core group of that Warrior Nation.
Yep.
And then last year we kind of got chatting. Was it just? It was during the COVID period, wasn't it, mate?
It was. It's right in the middle of COVID, and we sort of started messaging on the side of the group, and then we started video chatting.
On Zoom or was it Facebook or what?
It was just FaceTime, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was FaceTime. Yep. Yeah, just
FaceTime.
Yeah,
it was usually around Tuesday. It was for Team West Tuesday, wasn't
it?
Yeah.
Yeah, and so we just used to do a FaceTime catch up, just chatting all things footy and
Warriors, of course.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Obviously a massive focus on the Warriors, and we kind of just thought, well, why don't we go live on Facebook and just see what happens?
Yeah, it kind of felt like this was like a podcast anyway, and a lot of people would be interested in joining this kind of conversation.
Well, close to 500 have so far.
Yeah, that's right, mate. Yeah, it grew pretty quickly. I think we hovered around like 200 followers for a couple of weeks, and then all of a sudden it just exploded. And the show pretty much was just two blokes just chatting footy, and
it all happened so quick, didn't it? We literally just decided, well, how can we do this? We thought maybe we could do it on a messenger chat.
Yep.
Then we looked into Zoom and we're like, okay, well, we can get a Zoom on Facebook, that kind of thing on live, and it happened so quick, didn't it? I mean, and then if you go back and watch our first episode,
Yep.
Yeah. It was, we were like, are we on? Are we
is that us? Oh, okay, we're live. That's how it all started.
But I mean,
now you go.
We're very lucky. Yeah, we're very lucky. We got some really great followers who, encouraged us. Quite a few from New Zealand as well.
Mm-hmm. That's right.
Guys like TK and Brad Inger over in New Zealand who always tune in. And we, when the women's season started, we were quite lucky. We got Georgia Hale on the show. Reached out to her. She was great. She wanted to come on. And then from there, it kind of grew. We were able to get, Aussie Jillaroo stars like Karina Brown on the show, who was playing for the Warriors. Kira Dibb came on. And then it kind of grew from there. Brad Donald. And then from there, we got, guys like Mark Tukey and Toddy Payton. Cameron George has been on twice. So the reach has been quite good. It's basically the show that we do, and I don't want to talk for Rob, but it's basically the kind of show that if we were going to watch a show, that's what we want to watch.
Yes, exactly
right. Yeah,
you got to love what you do.
It's our kind of content. It's by the fans for the fans. That's what we always say about the show.
No, that's exactly what you want. I basically started the podcast the same way. Like, I just feel like I'm a privileged fan, you could say. That's all it is. I go through, send my messages, my emails, whatnot, and, they say yes, they say no, that's totally fine. But it's, at the end of the day, I am a fan. I'm doing it for the love of the sport,
Yeah, absolutely. And we're the same, we adopt the same kind of thing. We just send a whole heap of, messages out either, through Facebook Messenger or Instagram if we're following those guys on Instagram. And, some messages are still sitting there, haven't been seen, and others get back to you really quick, I
was going to say also, don't be discouraged by them sitting there, because I literally heard back from a player, I'm not going to name names. I sent the message in like February last year. I didn't hear back until October last year, but that was just because they're so busy,
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
It's understandable as well. Yeah,
exactly. So where can everyone find your, your show and or, your social medias? Like what
Well,
platforms?
predominantly, yeah. So we go live on Facebook on every Wednesday night at the moment. So Ruin Hammer on Facebook is probably the best place to find us and to interact with us. We also have Instagram.
Yep.
And we have a YouTube channel as well, which we're starting to build. So it's just Ruin Hammer on all those platforms
Sweet.
as well.
Well, what I'll do is in the editing stage, I'll have it like pop up on the screen as like a scrolling across the screen for you guys.
Yeah,
so,
we are like heeding your advice that you've given us in the past couple of weeks, mate.
Yeah.
We are starting to get our stuff out onto
with Anchor,
the podcast. Yeah, I downloaded Anchor.
Wicked.
I've just got I'm 52 years old, so
still in the startup.
I'm not technically advanced.
No, that's all good. If you need any help, whether it's when we're chilling at a Warriors game or whatever, and like, hey, can you show me how to do this? Just let me know.
Yeah, it's just trying to get the editing stuff done.
Editing is hard.
I'm kind of at a loss. I try it. We haven't got anything up on those platforms yet. But
even if it's a matter of you don't edit for a while and you just save the audio file from Zoom, record the Zoom call while it's going live, and then that audio file, just no matter what's in it, don't worry about editing it, just whack it up on the MP3 on Anchor, and then that'll give you that platform on Spotify and Apple for a while until and that'll give you time to learn how to edit, and then you'll gradually see the progress.
Great advice. Great advice.
Because I didn't know, excuse my language to anyone who's listening, but I didn't know shit from shoe polish when it came to editing. And mate, now I'm doing cutting edits, putting bloody scrolling things and shit. So yeah, it's honestly a lot of fun. Now let's get stuck into a 2020 season preview. To anyone who doesn't know, I mean, have you been living under a rock? If you guys don't know about the Warriors, they definitely went above and beyond last year, literally sacrificing almost everything coming from New Zealand with the COVID bubble. What were your guys' thoughts when you heard about that and everything in between?
It was for us as Warriors supporters. It's kind of we have a different take on what everyone else is like. Like there was a lot of the thanks to the Warriors
for bandwagons and stuff.
Yeah, that kind of stuff. For us as serious Warriors supporters, like the start of the season was very poor, very poor. Like our first game in Newcastle. Yeah, like our first game in Newcastle, 20-0 loss in shit conditions. And then we played Canberra and we lost 20-6. And the only try we scored was a penalty try to Cody Nicarima. And then COVID hit. So pretty much our first two games, we really hadn't scored a legitimate point.
Yep.
In 160 minutes of rugby league.
Shit.
It was one of those things where you also kind of looked at the squad that we had at the start of the year. And then with that really bad start, you almost felt like that break just happened at the right time.
Yeah, whereas the Broncos, it happened at the wrong time. Because we were 2-0 at the start. We beat the Cowboys and the Bunnies, and then bam, we went the opposite way.
Yeah. The COVID lockdown was a lot harder for the Warriors than the Australian-based teams because they were locked down in New Zealand. They were under full lockdown in New Zealand. They were like stage 4 at that stage. And we had a chat with Jazz Tavanga last year, and he was saying, they couldn't train.
Wow. Except in their garage at home sort of thing.
Yeah. And it wasn't until, I think 2 weeks before the comp was going to kick off that they got the notification that they could come to Australia and were going to be part of the comp. So they were kind of behind the 8 ball to begin with. We played our first game against the Dragons.
Oh, what a game.
After COVID.
76 minutes without a fucking error.
Completion rate.
Oh,
yeah. But in saying that, and
that's what you needed. That's what the fans needed.
We did, but a couple of weeks after that, when you kind of look back at that game, you kind of thought, okay, we only won 18-0. We had 96% completion rate in that game. We really should have put more points on, but we didn't.
You had the rose-coloured glasses on. We were just so happy to get a win and actually score a few tries.
Yeah.
We were like, how good was that? This is one of the greatest wins in the club's history. But as Hammer just said, we look back at it and go, yeah, geez, well, we should have won at least 30-0.
Yeah. And I think we went like Dragons win, Penrith lost, Cowboys win, Rabbitohs got a loss, and then Stephen Kearney was sacked. Todd Payton took over as the
He did a
coach.
wonderful
turning point of the season.
Yeah, it was. And then we got smashed by Melbourne in his first game at the helm, and then
the notorious Cameron Smith coming into the bloody sheds afterwards.
Yeah,
that rubbed me a bit the wrong way.
I think the thing for us was, as fans, was how honest he was in his appraisal of the game afterwards. We've been so used to listening to coaches in the past and guys like Stephen Kearney and that, the lad tried hard and that kind of stuff. Whereas Peyton was just brutally honest.
Yeah, he was like, nah, it's not good enough.
Not good enough. Some of these guys aren't first-grade footballers.
Our toughness, we just lack toughness. And that to me, actually, I'll retract my statement. That was the turning point. Okay. The press conference after that game. Because we all took notice of that. It was like, wow, like no Warriors coach, as you said, has ever spoken like this.
Never held the players accountable, sort of thing.
Yeah.
No. And then we played your Broncos, your beloved Broncos. And even that game, we were down because Xavier Coates had 2 tries in that game early. And we came from behind and won, and then it was.
That's the story of the Broncos' life last year.
That game, mate. Sorry, I don't want to rub it in, mate. But being from Brisbane
and a former Broncos fan yourself,
the media the whole week was like, surely the Broncos won't lose to the Warriors. They were just going, surely this is the week that they turn it around. And even through that game, you could hear even the commentators were saying, well, surely they don't lose this game.
Well, yeah it was fucked, honestly. And no, that's fair. But I mean, rub the salt in the wound all you want. But everyone's.
Sorry.
No, everyone's got to get the spoon eventually. But I think the real turning point, no offense to the Warriors for the comeback win, was the Broncos Manly game last year. The Broncos were ahead like 20-something 6 or 20-something 0 at halftime at Central Coast Stadium, and the fucking Manly just come in and just won from in the second half. And I was like, right, if we can't hold a 20-point fucking lead, we're shit.
We feel your pain.
We know all about that, mate. Don't worry.
I can remember back a couple of years ago, I was at a game at Penrith where we went in at halftime leading 28-6 and got done 36-32 or something against Penrith.
That's almost reminiscent of the 06 prelim Broncos versus Bulldogs. They went down at halftime. Fucking, I think it was 22-6. The Broncos were losing. They come back and won 37-20 something.
Yeah.
Hey, what a game that was.
With that game that Hammer's talking about, I literally went in at halftime to my wife and said, we're up 28-6. We can't lose this. And she just gave me that look. Are you sure?
Mate, I was actually at the game sitting on the hill at Penrith and my partner had her daughter with us, and she was 4 at the time. And every time Penrith scored, the fire went off, and she was cheering for the fire. And I kept telling her, "You're supporting the wrong team." It was a shocking game.
Wow. Wow.
But yeah, mate. In reference to our 2020 season, after that Broncos game, we had a couple of down games. We lost. We let a 12-0 lead go against the Titans.
Oh, yeah, terrible game against.
And then we lost to Cronulla, which was
that was a wet weather game, wasn't it? That was like
No. This one was dry at Central Coast, but it was the last game that Parsi and Fusatua and Mamalo played before they went home.
That's right. Yes.
Yeah.
And then after that is when the Warriors kind of kicked into a gear, and
we had that loss against the Roosters where we were tipped to get absolutely flogged, and we came out and we led 10-6 at half
good
time.
That game, yeah.
And while we didn't win the game, we won a lot of respect.
Yeah.
I think with the way that we stood up to them, and particularly Jack Hetherington stood up to Jared.
Oh, mate, that's goosebumps.
Yeah.
Love that. Everyone who isn't a Roosters fan hates JWH.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Oof.
But it was one of those seasons, bro. It towards the end of the year, we had some good results. The game up in Tamworth against Newcastle was great.
That was unreal.
The last game against Manly was a great game. There was a couple of games. I think it was the game that you were talking about before, that Cronulla game in the wet, which kind of was the death knell for the Warriors to maybe make the 8. It was an up and down season. There was a lot of things that they had to overcome last year.
Yeah, for sure.
But in speaking to Cameron George, that last year was last year, and it's a whole new year this year.
Exactly the same mentality at the Broncos as this year as well.
Yep. And they're based here again for the season this year.
Which is good. I think that's wonderful that they've announced it ahead of time.
So do I.
Yeah, exactly.
So do I.
Do you think, as I mentioned, earlier, I think it was yesterday's live show that you did with Justin, I asked, do you think the Warriors would and or should, sell home game memberships for Central Coast? You know, not necessarily people from the coast, but, you know, in Australia who want to go to Warriors home games on the coast. Do you think they should and or possibly could?
Absolutely, I do.
I think it's a cash cow for them.
Yeah, because they're not getting, like every other club's getting their membership packages, you know, purchased. You know, their fans can go to the games, but the Warriors home fans in New Zealand can't go to games, so they're not buying up the membership packages, and you know, neither should they. You know, I mean, but
and that's money gone that could have gone into the club. You know, like because membership goes into money, membership money goes into the club. I mean, you know, and it's a if they don't, or at least, you know, maybe come up with a flexi type deal. Why wouldn't they? You know?
Yeah, and as you said, it's a cash cow for them. You know, it's a way to generate some much needed membership funds that they're not getting and they didn't get last year. And I, for one, you know, living in Sydney, I'd definitely
I'm on the coast myself, so I'll be going. Yep.
I would definitely buy a home, you know, a home membership.
Yeah.
I mean, I buy an away membership every year. It doesn't get me tickets to a game, but I've been a member of the Warriors
since '95.
No, mate, not since '95.
Robbo,
probably mid 2000s.
Robbo was a turncoat as of '95, round one.
One game.
So that's actually an interesting question. Obviously, I've spoken to you guys previously, but for the record, Roo or Robbo, whatever you want to be called, you were definitely a Broncos fan before you were a Warriors fan. What was the, you know, traction that got you to follow the Warriors, you know, and, you know, pick and stick sort of thing?
Yeah, well, my story or my journey to rugby league is completely unorthodox.
Okay.
So I was actually born in the UK, but came out and moved to Brisbane at a young age. Mm-hmm. I never really had that much interest in sport, but when I was in grade 7, I had an American mate who collected rugby league cards.
Oh, yes.
And that is actually how I got into rugby league.
Was that the old Scanlon's cards?
Yeah, must have been. So I got really into it there, and obviously being in Brisbane, became a default Broncos fan. Mm-hmm. And then March 10, 1995 comes around. I remember sitting there watching that very first game, and I was just like, this is unbelievable. Like the atmosphere that was there, the intimidation factor was huge. And I was like, this team's scary, you know, and what they could be and what they could become. And there's a lot of potential there. I was just attracted to them because they were different. They had a fantastic jersey and a lot of like really cool players. And I was just like, you know, I feel like this is my team.
Yeah.
Yep.
And it's not orthodox or anything. I know it's unusual to have an Australian basically lived here all my life supporting the Warriors, but it just feels natural to me.
Yeah, no, that's fair. Yeah. And you did mention you're from the UK, so do you have a Super League team that you follow?
Not really. I don't really follow the Super League too much. I don't know. I'll go with Lake Catalan.
Hey, yeah, because Justin will probably be watching this.
yeah. Shout out to Justin.
What about yourself, Hammer? Do you have a Super League team? And also, why did you start following the Warriors?
For me, well, I grew up in the North Sydney district in Sydney. Yep. Played all my junior footy for the North Sydney Brothers Club in the local junior league. Was very fortunate. I played Harold Matts SG Ball Jersey Flag for the Bears. I was graded in President's Cup.
Wow.
Back when that was like took over from the under 23s. Yep. Signed my first contract when I was 15 because I actually moved out of area to Balmain. So Norths wanted to make sure I didn't go and play for a rival, and I'd never had any intention of it. I played a handful of President's Cup games, sat on the bench and got on the field in reserve grade, never played first grade. Yep. And was a diehard Bears fan right up until the Warriors inception. Mm-hmm. So my dad's obviously from New Zealand. Yep. He's Māori. I was born and bred here in Australia, though.
But you are Māori, though?
Yes, I have of Māori descent. And when we were brought up, we were always brought up to, like, we supported the Kiwis in league.
The All Blacks.
Supported the All Blacks. And there was a rule in our house that we supported New Zealand and anyone playing Australia. So,
yep.
So when the Warriors were accepted into the comp, it was just a natural.
It was a no-brainer. Like, we'd go for New Zealand.
Yeah, for me, like even though my whole life I'd been a Bear, it was just this is the country of my heritage, and that's who I'm going to support. And been a supporter since day one, 1995, and In relation to the Super League, I would say probably the Wigan Warriors because they're the Warriors.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. Well, I myself am a devout Leeds Rhinos fan because my family are from Leeds. So that's the same sort of, your family in Māori, same sort of thing. Now, 2021 season preview time. Where do you guys want to start? Do we want to start with the signings or the retentions or, the trial? I'll go if your guys lead.
You lead, mate.
Okay.
You ask the questions and we'll answer.
Okay, well, the trial that happened last week end.
Yep.
How do you think the team went and how do you think they can improve?
I think they went pretty well. In terms of defence, defensively we were very strong, and the biggest takeaway for myself from that game was we're basically defending our line for the last 10 minutes.
Yeah.
And I feel that is going to be invaluable come midway through the season.
September,
when we might be called on to do that during a game.
Yeah.
Attack-wise, I think we're a little bit. I mean, it's a trial, so I mean, it's a little bit clunky and there was about 4 sets of 6 right before half time where we had the ball and we just
you didn't capitalize
struggled
on it, sort of thing.
Yeah, we just lacked cohesion.
Yeah, we had no direction.
Yeah,
we kind of went sideways back and forth across the field, and no one really took control. And I agree with Rob in everything that he said. I think that defense in the back end of the game where we basically defended for 10 straight minutes and didn't touch the ball. Is going to hold us in good stead. And Rob and I last year often spoke about the resilience that the Warriors adopted or built last year in defence. Where we've never been a team that's been synonymous with good defence.
No, not really.
No, so that was probably a big plus. I think CHT not playing was a bit of a down.
Probably a factor in the attack, wasn't it?
Yeah,
the way Sean O'Sullivan was in there at the last minute.
And Sean O'Sullivan tried hard. He played a lot of big minutes in that game. I think the mismatch though was him defending David Fafita. Fafita, I mean, he's very hard to contain at the best of times. But when you're probably the smallest guy on the field, except for Cody Nikorima.
He's tiny.
Fafita's going to have a field day. So I'd give him a pass a pass mark on the trial. Bearing in mind too, every other team apart from Melbourne had played a trial the week before, and our trial against Melbourne was cancelled because of the COVID situation in Melbourne. So we didn't get a first up trial game the week before. So
it's our one and only.
So you literally only just got the fresh legs, sort of thing.
Yep.
Yeah, no, that's fair. Yeah. That makes sense. And obviously there's been a fair few signings, a fair few, retentions at the Warriors. Who are you, both of you guys, who are you tipping to be the player to watch, whether it's a signing or a retention? And who do you think needs to improve their game to get the game minutes that they were given last year?
Signing-wise, I'm most excited about Vanilla Blake. Definitely.
Yeah.
And he showed why in that trial. He had an outstanding game. One of the criticisms over the last probably 3 or 4 years of the Warriors has been the forwards and the lack of go forward. They've sort of been saying that we've got one prop, but one forward, there's all the same size. So there's carbon copies of each other. We have a bunch of guys that were all the same sort of body shape. So obviously the club this year has gone out of their way to get players different size. And the go forward that he brings, we were saying that, it'd be great to see RTS running off AFB.
Yep.
Through the middle. Yeah, I'm definitely excited what he brings. And also Ben Murdoch-Marcelo had a few really nice touches in that trial as well.
Yeah.
They're the 2 big signings for mine, yeah.
Okay, and what about yourself, Hammer?
For me, I think everyone's going to say AFB. Yeah. The post-contact meters that he got in that trial game were fantastic. He played 60 straight minutes. Wow. But the guy that I was really excited about when the Warriors signed him was Bailey Sirenen.
Yes.
I've been very fortunate to be able to watch Bailey play a lot of junior footy because he played in the same district. He was a year ahead of one of my boys, my middle boy. So I got to see Bailey play a few times when he was younger. And being the son of Paul Sirenen, there was always that thing about him. But under Wayne Bennett last year at South, he really developed his game.
He had such a good season.
Yeah, and I think he's going to be. I think a lot of people are going to be surprised. I think he's going to be a regular in our 17.
I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah. So here's the one I'm most excited to watch.
And who are you thinking needs to improve?
Needs to improve.
I mean, and I'm not saying this shit because obviously I'm not putting the the bad word on to anyone who's watching or listening. This is not me saying, oh, this player is shit.
No.
It's a matter of they genuinely have room to improve.
Yeah.
I would say now, I don't know if this is so much someone that really needs to improve, but I'd say it's a really big year for Chanel Harris-Tavita. Yeah. It's kind of a make or break season for him. Now he's apparently got full reins of the team now. If he's in there, he's the genuine number 7. And he's kind of been in and out of the team in the last 2 years. So this is a real big opportunity for him to step up and really guide the team around the park and become more of a chief playmaker and game manager as well. So I'm really excited to see what he does this year.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. I would say Cody Nicarima.
I agree. He's never been, no offense to him, he's always been hot and cold, even at the Broncos. So
he had the perfect opportunity in the last weekend's trial once Chanel was taken out as injured to really control that guy, like take that team by the scruff of the neck, lead him around the park and control it. And he didn't do that. And I know it's only a trial, but Cody for me is the guy. I mean, he's played at the Broncos. He's played for New Zealand. He's
been there, done that. Yeah.
He doesn't want to play 9. He's always said that he wants to play in the halves. I think this is the season he's got to actually, take control of that side and really prove it. Because I mean, as Rob said, Chanel's a great talent, but Chanel's still only like 22 years old.
He's clear
he's still learning. Cody needs to be the senior of those two halves.
Exactly.
And really drive the team around. So here's the one for me. And just the other one would be who I was impressed with in the trial was Bunty Afoa. It was great to see Bunty get some game time.
Yeah, Bunty's always a fan favorite.
Yeah, I think he's gonna be. I think he's gonna have a big year. I think he's gonna push for a position in that 17, particularly round 1, because we have got a couple of injuries. So I was excited to see Bunty get some decent game time last weekend.
Yeah, for sure. And obviously the news that has been flogged like a dead horse is RTS has obviously signed with rugby for next year. As anyone who wants to know, go and rewatch Ruin Hammer's episode with Cameron George to find out, how Roger is handling all of that for this year. But who do you think should be the number 1 pick for captaincy for next year before this season starts? Who do you think based off their, current form should
Tohu?
Okay.
Tohu Harris. Yeah. It's got to be Tohu. But the
problem I have to agree. Experience.
The problem with Tohu though is he's not very vocal.
He's not a big
one of those. Yeah, he's more of a
lead by example.
Follow me, boys. Yeah, I'll lead the way rather than
Simon Mannering type.
Yeah, I get that vibe from him. What do you think of maybe Jazz Tavunga getting it?
You know what? I love Jazz.
Yeah.
I absolutely love Jazz. He's one of my favorite players. Jazz is probably his biggest problem if he was captain is his discipline, his on-field discipline.
That's what I would say too.
If he can show that he's, worked through that this year, then I reckon he'd be a real contender.
I don't know if you saw some of the stuff that Cameron George has been sharing with his on the road with the Vodafone Warriors.
I only just got onto that yesterday, so I've been trying to watch as much as I could.
Okay. So probably a week and a half ago, he videoed Nathan Brown announcing the leadership group. Okay. So the Warriors leadership group for this year is Tohu, Wade Egan, Adam Fanua-Blake,
Ken Mamalo.
Yeah, Ken Mamalo and Eli Katoa.
Okay.
So it's a real big mix of players and personalities. Yeah. Probably surprising too for some that of course RTS is in that as well. But probably surprising that guys like Cody or Petahiku.
Yeah. I was thinking Peter would be in there.
More senior players aren't in that leadership group. So if based on the leadership group, you'd probably assume that it's one of those guys that's going to take the captaincy next year when Roger leaves.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I'd say Tohu Harris.
Having said that about Tohu Harris, though, he is off contract, so we do have to re-sign him first.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. And I mean, you'll have a bit of a cap freed up when Roger leaves. Now, speaking of more signings, you've also had some staff at the Warriors be brought in, such as Nathan Brown as coach, Phil Gould. What are your thoughts on, Brownie and Gould coming into the club for 2021 and, etc.?
I was most excited about Phil Gould, to be honest.
5-year plan?
He's one of those guys that you kind of love to hate.
Yeah.
But regardless of what you say about the man, he knows his footy.
He does. That's what pisses me off.
Exactly.
That's what pisses me off. I hate him as a Queenslander, but he knows his fucking footy.
He knows what he's talking about. And you look at all the good things he's done at the other clubs he's been involved in, like the Roosters, and then most recently Penrith, building up like that junior system there and everything. Like, I was really excited. I was like, imagine what he could do with the Warriors, with the junior base there over in New Zealand, which I'm led to believe he's going to be working with when COVID's allows travel back to New Zealand. So he'd just be one of those guys you'd have around and you just pick his brain.
Yeah.
And I think based on the videos that we've seen from Cameron George and everything, that's basically his role. He's there. And if they want to bounce an idea off him, I guess he's available to all the staff. So, yeah, I was really excited about his appointment.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, and it's going to be great when he is able to get back to New Zealand and start working in our developments and our pathways. Yeah. Brownie, I think, is a great acquisition as a coach. What he did at Newcastle, like Wayne Bennett pretty much left that place in disarray.
Yeah, and 100% he did.
And Brownie had to rebuild that squad. And I mean, Adam O'Brien gets a lot of the praise now for the side that the Knights.
But he built that squad. He was the one that got that nursery, those juniors. Yeah.
Yeah, but it's Nathan Brown that really built that.
He was able to sign a lot of quality players in Newcastle, despite the fact they didn't have the runs on the board.
Yeah.
Like he got all those guys there. The big deal for Caelan Ponga as well.
Mm.
I don't think we get the players that we've signed in the off season if Nathan Brown isn't our coach.
Yeah, I agree.
I think
especially Aden.
Yeah, I think that was the thing that really drew these guys to the club is they'd seen what Brownie had done in the past. Not only that, they speak very highly of what the Warriors did last year, and they wanted to be a part of that group.
Yeah, that culture.
So I think it was But yeah, no, I think Brownie's going to be great for us. I must admit, we were sad when Toddy Payton didn't take the job.
Very sad. Yeah.
We love Toddy.
And then there was rumors of the Walker boys going to the team before they didn't.
Yeah, that was a weird one.
Yeah.
It kind of got leaked and that they had signed, but then it was. They said that they signed a 1-year deal, which was really.
Who signs bizarre. A 1-year deal? For
1-year deal to coach a team, and I don't know. That was a strange one.
Yeah.
But,
I mean, they're definitely suited for the NRL style right now.
I do hope they get a gig somewhere.
Sure.
I'd love to see their style in action in the NRL.
Oh well, because their style is, if anyone who's watched Ipswich Jets, they basically were ahead of their time before the the 6 again rule and all that. They basically played like that before those new rules were implemented a few years ago.
Are they still the coaches of the Ipswich?
No, they're not. They stopped in 2019.
Okay.
So they're now back to doing real estate and stuff up in Queensland.
Okay, because I know like Ipswich are putting in a bid for.
They are.
The NRL.
Western Corridor is what their team is going to be called.
Okay.
Western Corridor.
Yeah, because they're merging Ipswich and some bloody other team. I can't remember what they call it. Yeah, and they're calling themselves the Western Corridor because it'll be the Western area, Ipswich and all that sort of stuff.
Yep.
So, predictions for round 1 team list. Obviously, Team List Tuesday is upon us next week. Who do you think is going to be the starting 17 and obviously 18th man for emergencies?
Here we go. I reckon the backline picks itself if everyone's fit.
Having said that, we did discuss last night that there is a bit of an injury cloud over David Pusatua.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
In our full strength team, it would be, RTS, Pusatua, and Ken Mamalo on the wings.
100%. Yeah.
But the interesting thing is that Pusatua had to fall out of the trial, and
Marcelo Montoya played
80 minutes, didn't
he? Yeah.
Yeah.
That was impressive.
Yeah.
In a perfect world, it would be RTS, Ken and Puss on the wings. Personally, I would go with Hiku and Ewan Aitken in the centres.
Okay.
I would too.
Yeah.
And who
And
were
then
the
Cody-
halves? Yeah, would it be Cody and Chanel?
Cody and CHT.
Brady and Chanel, yeah.
For me, my starting pack would be Lisa Narmel and Adam Fanua-Blake. With the injury to Wade Egan, I'd have Jazz at hooker. Yeah. My back row would be Jack Murchie, Bailey Sirinen, and Tohu to start.
Yep.
And then coming off the bench, I'd probably have Sean O'Sullivan.
Okay.
Just
a
as
14
that
utility.
The interchanges of Jazz. Yeah.
Ben Murdoch-Masilla, Jermaine Tanoa-Brown, and I think Josh Curran's done enough to earn himself
I think so.
a spot in the 17.
Yep. Now, last year there was a young gun come out of nowhere, King Vuniyayawa. What's happened to him? I've not seen much. Has he not re-signed with them? Has he gone to another club? What's up?
So King was one of the players that went home when Parsi
and Malu and all
that. He'd broken his hand
that's never good.
in training, so there was no point in being here. He was missing his family, and
it was first year in first grade as well, so he definitely would.
The Warriors released him and they didn't re-sign him, and as far as I'm aware, he's signed for one of the Super League clubs.
Okay.
Well,
good on him. He's still getting first string footy.
Yeah.
Damn, because he was a weapon before that handbrake. Like, I remember saying obviously the name King Vuniyayawa, and then he really impressed in his games that he played.
Yeah, he'd been in our system for a little while. He in the reserve grade system. It was quite funny because when the Warriors first signed him, they brought him over from Fiji because they wanted to have a Fijian winger. And
every club wants one.
The story he tells is that when he got to training, he tried to tell him, they kept putting him out on the wing, and he kept trying to tell him that he wasn't a winger. He was a front rower, but they just thought, big Fijian, he must be our winger.
Oh, shit.
So, yeah.
Damn. So he had to relearn a whole new position.
No, he moved into the forwards.
Good.
Where he was supposed to be, No, he didn't. He wasn't built for the wing, bro.
Nah. I mean, even Mikasivo, is he really built for the wing, let's be honest?
Yeah,
the speed, I think, but everything else it points the other way.
Just a very large human.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, it's like Michele Ravalawa at St. George.
Yep.
Big Rav. And of course, who can forget Semi at Parramatta?
Oh, mate. Have you seen him carving up in Union now? Holy shit. It's like he's making a mockery of him.
Yeah.
Right. Now there's some personal questions for the Warriors and your personal favorites. So the first question is, who are your top 3 Warriors players of all time?
Well, I'll go first.
Okay, yep.
Yeah.
Okay, you got to have the great Stacey Jones in there. The heart and soul of the Warriors. He will, in my mind, he will always be the greatest Warrior ever. He's a 95 original. He played through a lot of, unsuccessful periods, and then it was great that he really peaked in 2002.
Yep.
Absolute legend of the club. Stacey Jones. Number 2, Simon Mannering.
Yep.
Again, same reason. He was just a workhorse and just a legend of the club. And number 3 is might surprise a few people, but Steve Price.
Yep. I definitely agree with that.
Yeah, Steve Price for me was one of those rare guys that came over from Australia, and they were saying he was a little bit past it when he signed with us, but he came over and changed the culture of the club. Yep. And he just led us to a really successful period, and his game went to new levels as well when he came to New Zealand.
It did.
And he continued his rep career. He was a regular state of origin selection and for Australia, and I always have such fond memories of him.
Yeah, for sure. Yep. What about yourself, Hammer?
Absolutely. Stacey Jones, without a doubt.
Got to have him.
And Simon Mannering as well. My only difference is Ruben Wiki.
I thought you were going to add the Wick. Yep, the Wiki.
Yeah, I was a massive fan of Ruben's when he was at Canberra. Obviously, when he signed with the Warriors was awesome. I've been very fortunate because I do have a personal relationship with him, and that was purely from just being a fan at a footy game and getting a photo with him, and like year after year after year, it was kind of like a progression.
You were that guy every sinsingle time, like, hey,
yeah. And he kind of remembered, and then he was part of the training squad. And I was sitting at Cronulla one day, watching the Warriors warm up, and he's just come over to the fence and just started chatting, and it was kind of
like all those years had brought you to that moment. Yeah.
Yeah. So got a personal relationship. I've, got him on Messenger and speak to him quite often. So yeah, he's always been a favourite of mine.
He really is a top bloke. My top three, for anyone who's listening, if they care, for the Warriors, from a non-Warriors perspective, like fan base, I'd put not necessarily 1, 2, and 3, but in no particular order, but definitely got to have Stacey in there, as you guys said. Regardless, he is the OG Warrior, in my opinion. Lance Hohaya would be in there because as a kid, you guys won't probably relate to this because he was playing when you guys were adults, but I was a kid when Lance was playing. And everyone has the team that they follow and maybe 2 or 3 players that don't play for that team that just get captivated by, and Lance was one of those. So I'd say definitely Stacey, Lance Hohaya, and got to have Ruben Wiki. I'm sorry. Yeah, you got to have Ruben Wiki. He was another one of those players that, just can't not. So, yeah, those would be my top 3. And now top 5 Warriors games of all time.
Come on, Rob. You go first.
Yeah, mate. I'm always excited about this. Funnily enough, all 5 of mine are finals games.
Oh, okay, not even the first game against the Broncos, even though they lost, but not even the first game.
Oh no, mate. That's that'd be number 6.
Okay.
Okay. I got the 2002 preliminary final against the Sharks.
Oh yes,
that was our first ever prelim final, and it was just a biggest game in the club's history at that point in time. And I just remember watching that and just being so proud of the team.
Yeah.
Just being elated at full time that we'd made a grand final, and it was a tough contest. And the great Stacey Jones threading the grubber through for Johnny Carlaw.
Yep. Coastie product, by the way. John Carlaw's from the Central Coast.
Yep. Yeah, shout out to you, Johnny Carlaw. And 2003 final against the Bulldogs.
Ooh.
Francis Belly scoring 5 tries against the Bulldogs. We just absolutely tore them apart that night.
Yep.
We were in great form. Brent Webb, Sione Falmawina, Clinton Torpy, all these guys were just
goosebumps, all those names.
Yeah. It was just one of those nights where we just...
Everything clicked.
Yep. Yeah. 2 games from 2008 I've got. So, obviously, the final against the Storm, the first time that 8th has ever beaten first, the Michael Witt try.
Whitty!
Put it down, Michael.
Yep.
Put it down. I have to have that one. I think that will be just about everyone's top 5 games. And then the week later against the Roosters back at Mount Smart Stadium.
Oh, wow, yeah.
Final, it was the blackout. And we thought round 1, 95 was an intimidating atmosphere. Well, that night, everyone just said it was the blackout night.
That was the Ruben Wiki smashing.
The Ruben Wiki, yes. Sia Soliola. Who could ever forget that? Who could ever forget that?
Mate, yeah.
Just absolutely knocked him out.
And I'm guessing the next one will be 2011 grand final, maybe.
Yeah. Well, the number 5 is the 2011 prelim final.
Prelim, okay.
Sean Johnson magic to put Lewis Brown over in the corner.
Against the Storm.
That was just one of those magic moments that I don't think any Warriors fan again will ever forget.
Yeah, 100%.
I've gone for 5 games, 4 that I was at and 1 that I wasn't.
Okay.
And I'll go in not favourite order, but chronological order. So for me, round 1, 1995 versus the Broncos. Just watching that on TV, that whole atmosphere, the fire, the boys coming out of the tunnel, the drums, seeing that jersey emerge for the first time. Yeah.
Oh, mate.
That for me, I mean, it was a game that we probably should have won. 25-22 lost to the Broncos, which is nothing to be scoffed at.
No, definitely, but first game for the team, and they win, and they come close to winning.
Yeah,
against the dominant team of the most dominant team of that decade. No brag,
that's
but
exactly
they really
right.
were. Fuck.
Yep.
Yeah.
My second game is same as one that Rob had, the 2002 preliminary final against the Sharks. 16-10 win.
And Justin Murphy chased down Peachy.
Yep. Yeah, Justin Murphy chased down Peachy. Johnny Carlaw scores under the post. That iconic image of Kevin Campion and Jerry Sears.
Yep. Yeah. How good is that?
Crowd. The whole atmosphere of being at a Warriors semi-final and to see us go into the grand final was awesome.
Unreal. Yeah.
The 2011 semi-final against the Tigers, where they wore this jersey with the we were down and out, and then the second half, Felitti Mateo scored a try, and then we had the Christian Inu try where all Tim Moulton had to do was put his hand on the ball.
Literally just had to put his hand on it.
Yep.
And it would have stopped it.
Yep.
Unreal.
So there's that 22-20 win against the Tigers. Then two lesser known games that most people wouldn't remember, but as a Warriors fan, very heartwarming for me. The 2018 round 4 game against the Roosters.
Oh, yep.
Yes. We wore this jersey.
The week beforehand, we'd played Canberra at Canberra, and there was a couple of the Warrior Nation that went down to watch that. And that was when Sean Johnson kicked the 2 field goals to win the game for us in a game that we should never have won. And sitting in the Warriors supporters bay, there was 8 people.
Wow.
Sitting there. The following week at Allianz against the Roosters, we had 3 whole bays sold out.
How good.
The atmosphere was sensational. Sean Johnson pulled out injured the day of the game. They brought in Mason Linnor.
Yep.
He played an awesome game that day. That 30-6 win against the Roosters.
In a year that the Roosters won it.
Yeah,
correct.
Exactly.
And then my last game is round 20 last year when we played Manly, beat Manly 40-26.
Oh, mate, yep.
Just to be at that game.
Was Adam Blair's last
the
game,
boys,
Jared Beale's last game.
Yep. Just to be at that game and watch, how the boys finished off their season. They couldn't make the semis. They had every right, against Canberra the week before and then Manly that week to just roll over and give up, and they didn't.
No, they didn't.
It just showed that the steel and the resilience that Toddy Payton had built in that team.
Still there, carried through.
So that goes down as one of my 5 favourite games.
Nah, fair enough. I really can't pinpoint a top 5, but I would definitely agree with the 0-2 prelim regardless. And I would definitely agree with the Tigers semi and the 2011 prelim that Rue mentioned. But I don't know. For me personally also, even though they lost, the 2011 grand final, because Manly were dominant around that time regardless, and just the atmosphere of Warriors being in the grand final, that harker before the game and just everything about it. Same with 0-2. Not so much 0-2 though, because they didn't really do too much for the cultural sort of stuff. That's why I prefer the 2011. But again, it's just fucking, goosebumps. It's kind of like 2019 with the Viking clap. 2011 with the Warriors harker, and so it was stadium wide. Every Warriors fan got up in the stands. I'm going to put the footage down here so people can watch what I'm talking about if they haven't seen it. It's absolutely fucking scenes. I'm just trying to think if there's anything else to talk about. Where do you guys realistically and also optimistically see the Warriors finishing the season?
For me, realistically, I'd say we're going to challenge for that 7th or 8th spot. I think if we don't make the 8, it'll be a disappointing season because we don't have any excuses this year. We've bought well. We're based in Australia, so there's none of this. What's happening with us? Where are we going to be? We they've been settled here since 4th of January. So no excuses this year. We should be trying to get that 7th or 8th spot where there's probably going to be 6 teams vying for. So that's probably realistically. Optimistically,
win it.
We'll be winning the comp. So grand final day, winning the comp. That's everyone. That would be a great way to send Roger out in his last game for the Warriors.
Fucking wouldn't it?
That would make my top 5.
Yeah.
And obviously Cameron George has come out and said that there will be first dibs for the Warriors on Roger if he ever decides to come back to rugby league.
Yeah, it's kind of written into the agreement.
And definitely comforting to know that.
Yeah, I think his last game when he walks off in his last game for the Warriors.
He won't walk off, he'll go off on the shoulders.
Yeah, well, it'll be the last time that we see him on a rugby league field, I would say. I don't think he'll
agree,
Due to his age, and you assume that he'll be a success in rugby.
Exactly. And to anyone who watched and or hasn't watched your Cameron George episode just recently, Cameron did go on to say that he absolutely breathes and bleeds rugby union and has always wanted to play. So, you know, like you say, I don't think we'll see him back on a rugby league field after 2021, but he's definitely extra, if not, even more dedicated to this season than ever. And what about yourself, Roo? How do you think they're going to go optimistically and obviously realistically?
I think realistically, basically what Hammer said, I reckon 6 to 10.
Okay.
I really think we can make the 8.
Yeah.
I'd say 6. A 6th spot would be a good season for us, I think.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of teams that have improved this year, improved their rosters, and will challenge for those last few spots in the top 8, but I think we can get in there anywhere from 6 to 8. I'd be happy just to make the finals at the moment.
Yeah.
But as Hammer said, with the squad that we have, there's no excuses.
Yeah.
So we really shouldn't be missing out on those finals. We might get a 9th or 10th, but I think the Tigers have already.
I think they've already booked in the 9th.
The Tigers have already got 9th locked up.
Okay, sorry. So it might have to be 10th.
Yeah.
But again, optimistically,
you'd be raising the trophy in October. Yeah.
Yep. That's it.
Yep. Well, I myself for the Warriors, I kind of agree with you guys in the middle sort of thing. I reckon between 7th and 9th. Obviously, Tigers have that wrapped up, you could say. But I feel like, as you said, the pass mark is finals footy for the Warriors. There's, as you said, no excuse now that they've got the, solid answer. We're in Australia for the season, etc. So I reckon, and obviously optimistically for Warriors fans, I'd like to see them make the grand final. I obviously want the Broncos to win it. But, at least, make it. Pass fail is definitely they've got to make the finals, even if it's 8th. They've got to make it.
Yeah. I think that the top 5 or 6 sides are kind of
already locked in. Really, it's just a matter of
they're
which
locked
order.
in. Melbourne, the Roosters, Parramatta,
Raiders, and Rabbits.
Raiders.
It's going to be hard to oust any of those teams.
Yeah.
If they continue on their form, I mean, they're all really strong teams.
Yeah.
Their rosters are still relatively the same. So,
yeah, for sure. And I think that's literally it. I'm just double checking the list. Yeah, that's it. Is there anything you guys want to talk about?
I just want to say I'm really impressed that you've got that poster up behind you, mate. It makes you feel like you're part of the team.
That's what I was thinking. I thought, when in Rome, even though I wear me Broncos, I'd whack up the poster.